So, you're in a part of your career where you want to figure out where you want to go next. Do you want to go on the commission side or the warrant officer side? There's a huge difference. You have to figure out what you want to do. So let me tell you what the differences are so you can make that informed decision. All right, follow me. Let's get there.
Hard work, earn more pay. Hard work, do it every day. Get up out of 2:45. Ready to go.
So commissioned officers, you know, the lieutenants, the captains, the majors, the lieutenant colonels, the generals, those are commissioned officers. We call them O grades. And if you've been in the military, you've definitely come across those. And for those who aren't in the military, you've definitely seen them on TV or you've seen them in movies. You hear them say, sir, major, and so forth. And so, that being said, what do they do that's different than the warrant officer? Well, think of your O grades as, let's say, CEOs. They watch over the whole company. And at each level, that O grade who commands is the CEO of that company. And I say company because we do have companies. So he's in charge of everything underneath his umbrella. Now let's switch over to the warrant officer side. The warrant officers, you hear the word Mr., but more or less you hear the word chief. You hear someone being called chief all the time. Hey, chief so-and-so. You never hear warrants called warrant officer this, warrant officer that. It may be Mr., chief. That's pretty much it. We go from warrant officer 1, who's appointed by Department of the Army, Secretary of the Army, Department of the Army, and then chief warrant officers, chief warrant officer 2, 3, when you become a senior chief warrant officer, 4, then 5. That's when you become field grade warrant officers, so senior warrant officers. Now you're commissioned as a regular officer in the military. The difference is, as we spoke about the O grades as being the CEOs, think about the warrants as being the CTO, the Chief Technical Officer, or CISO, CISO, Chief Information Security Officer. But let's go back to the technical side, the Chief Technical Officer. Think of warrant officers as that. They're technical experts in their field. So they advise the commander, advise the CEO on what should happen with the company. If we're moving forward something technology-wise, the CEO or the company commander or the commander will lean on that warrant officer, that CTO, on how they should roll out their next plan when it comes technologically. Now, how do you become one or the other? Well, on the O grade side, the commissioned officer side, on the O grade side, there's a handful of different paths. You just don't walk into it. And there's criteria to become one. So typically on the O grade side, you have, ROTC, which is Reserve Officer Training Corps, which is ROTC. A lot of you guys have heard of that if you go into college. You have junior ROTC in high school. You know, that's your junior officer's course when you go through regular college. Then you have the military academies, which are West Point, the Citadel, trying to think of a few more, but all your military academies. Annapolis, that's a military academy, and that's where the Navy and Marines go. And then you have what we call direct commission. That is usually lined for specialties, let's say doctors and lawyers. And what that is they will appoint you or commission you directly in the military without having any military experience, because your credentials are so high or the needs are so much in the Army that they need you that bad that they'll bring you right in. Now, I think there's a course you go to acclimate to the Army. It's like a 2-week course. But all in all, like, that's what that is. Like, it's direct commission. They directly commission you. Now, then you have what they call green to gold. And that's going from enlisted to officer. Oh, I forgot one. OCS, Officer Candidate School. Officer Candidate School is pretty much like a basic training all over again, but just for officers. Typically, you'll have your former enlisted will go to OCS to become officers. It's pretty much rebuilding you into being that officer. Anybody can go through either one of the schools. let's say, for example, you can get nominated to go to West Point or Annapolis. ROTC, once you graduate college and you complete all your criteria to become an officer, once you're done, you pin on that second lieutenant. Same thing with OCS. So it's set up for anybody to be able to attend. Now, there is special criteria for you to attend. There's age waivers, there's, I won't say age waivers, but there's actually age requirements for you to be able to attend. Now, the warrant officer side. We have, on the warrant officer side, there's only a couple different, I guess, paths to becoming a warrant. They just opened up what they call street to seat. That means taking someone literally off the street. Taking someone literally off the street to where, hey, do you want to join the Army? Yes, I want to join the Army. Hey, do you want to become a warrant officer? Yes. But that's not for every MOS on the warrant officer side. That's usually saved for, they're doing it for cyber now. It's usually saved for pilots. That's a big one. So they'll bring you in off the street. Once you pass warrant officer candidate course, then you go directly to flight school. You go to flight school, 2-year-long school, then off to the Army you go. So that's how it is to become a warrant officer. Here's a difference also. The requirements are different. To become a regular commissioned officer, you must have your bachelor's degree. I know they used to have it to where you could have 90 credits, but you'd have to have your bachelor's within becoming a captain. But I'm not sure if that's still true anymore, but in the end, you still have to have your bachelor's degree. On the warrant officer side, you don't have to have a degree. So that's a big difference there. So that can kind of help you figure out which direction you want to go. Next would be pay. So as a commissioned officer, the higher in rank you go, the more responsibility you get, the more you will get paid, the more time you will put in, and the more prestige you get. As a warrant officer, the same thing happens, but not on as grand a scale. So the higher up as a warrant officer you get, the more responsibility you get, but more you expect to have your technical savvy, to be technical savvy. And higher up you get, the more up the echelon you get, the more oversight you get. I won't say responsibility, I said the more oversight. I mean, you're advising the higher echelon, but then you're mentoring the lower or lower warrant officers. I'll say lower, or junior warrants to you. If you're CW5, then a 4 is still junior to you, but a 4 is still senior. But the pay does compensate your responsibility. So let's say if a major was laterally equivalent per se, because we're both field grades as a CW3, that major is going to make a whole lot more because the major's responsibility is a whole lot greater. If the major is an executive officer, or let's say if we step it up, a lieutenant colonel and a CW4, that lieutenant colonel is a battalion commander. He's responsible for 1 battalion, probably 5 companies. So that could easily be over 2,000 soldiers, easily. And the responsibility falls on him or her. So that's why the pay compensates, or the compensation, you know what I mean. The pay goes equal with the responsibility. The warrant officer side, you don't have that responsibility. So what are the daily duties of each? A commissioned officer, day to day, he'll be in a lot of meetings because you're the company commander, you're in charge. And I'm using the commander side because let's say, for example, if you have a company, you will have officers under you that are in charge of the sections. So they're section heads. So they're responsible of the section and what happens. But you will be in a lot more meetings, planning for the missions, planning for training, but that's what the job entails. And the warrant officer side, you'll have different warrant officers, different MOSs are the ones who help you technically plan those missions for each aspect of the mission. If you have a transportation, for your mission entails transportation, you'll have a transportation warrant, and he will be in charge of the motor pool, and he will give his advisement to the commander. Same thing with cyber, same thing with signal, same thing with military intelligence. And with the enlisted are there to execute. They say it's the truth. NCOs are the backbone of the Army. But as I digress, that's the differences, is that the officers will be planning, the warrants will be advising, and the enlisted will be executing. Last but not least, career progression. How far up can you go? As you've seen on the as you've seen on the commissioned officer side, in the beginning, I named off a handful of ranks, up to lieutenant colonel, second lieutenant, first lieutenant, captain, major, lieutenant colonel, and then you get to the big boys, you get to the stars, brigadier general, major general, lieutenant general. So you can make it all the way up to general. You're looking at least 30 years right there. The warrant officer side, there's only 5 ranks you can go. W1 to CW5. That CW5, you're the highest on your food chain, just like on the enlisted side. The sergeant major is the highest in this on the food chain. On the O grade side, the highest is a 4-star general. Now, as a warrant, you can get to a CW5. Warrants promotions are a lot slower than the O grades and more static. For example, a second lieutenant from second to first lieutenant, I'm going to be wrong on these, but it's like 6 months. Then first lieutenant to captain, I think maybe 3 years. Then captain to major, maybe 6, and so forth. And you can't get promoted before your time. The warrant officer side, let's say on the reserve side, from W1 to CW2, 2 years. Then after that, every promotion is 6 years spaced out. Unless you sit in a seat that's at higher rank, but that's a whole different discussion. So active duty, it's 5 years spaced out. So it's a lot longer. Pros and cons. On the O grade side, you have a mandatory retirement date. We all do. But on the warrant officer side, we can stay in the field and stay in longer. And that's the other difference too. As an O grade, you can, depending on if you're trying to get command time, switch over from different units, to different branches. If you're a signal officer, you can go to a transportation company and lead the transportation company. If you're a transportation officer, you can do the same thing to get command time. As a warrant officer, whatever job you are that, I'm going to say, pretty much for life. I mean, can you switch over into what we call B-tip? Can you switch over to another MOS? Yes, I've done it. Is it hard to go back? Yes, but you can. But it's not common for warrant officers to do that. So once you get your MOS or your branch as a warrant, then that's what you are. That's what makes you that subject matter expert. And that's the longevity of warrants. A lot of times warrants will stay in one unit for a long time. Commissioned officers every 3 years typically should be bounced from unit to unit to get exposure and experience and to spread out their experience to the Army. Warrant officers are the continuity. So which one is for you? Are you looking at O grade? Or are you looking at the W, the WO grade, as we call it, the WOs? Are you trying to take full leadership, the CEO path? Or are you trying to take the technical path, the CTO path? I try to break down all the differences, the different criteria of what it takes to become an O grade or a warrant officer, and everything you need to make an informed decision. So, like and subscribe. I hope this is informational to everybody. And there's some things that I know I left out. I know I did. And if I did, hit me in the comments. Matter of fact, don't hit me in the comments. Hit everybody else in the comments. I want to see what you guys have to say. But until the next time, stay dangerous and peace.